Pray with me quickly. Lord God, I ask the thoughts of my mind, the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart this day, Father, convey that of the Holy Spirit to that which is needed to be ministered and said to us as your people, Father, this day in Christ's name. Amen. You see, one of these religious people, the Pharisees, has issued this invitation to Jesus to come to a dinner party. One of the things I really like about Luke has this, fondness for having things happen at banquet scenes. So as you can tell, I'm into the banquet scene myself. So I relate to Luke fairly well. So when Jesus gets there, it says he sat down to eat. And then in doing that, something happened. This woman comes in, not invited, not announced, makes her way through the crowd, gets right to Jesus' feet, and begins washing them with her tears and her hair. Now, we don't know how she got in. That's not really important. We do know that her behavior, at least in my mind's eye, could be what I would picture as somewhat hysterical, if not loud. Just the flowing of the tears and the purpose of mind that I got to go deal with this. To the extreme that nobody can stop her if they wanted to. I don't know if they had guards at the door. It doesn't say that. But certainly nobody could even take time to get her invitation to see if she's invited there. And then she takes those tears and she begins washing his feet and then drying it and scrubbing it with her hair. This story can be found in all four of the Gospels. In the Synoptics, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which means synoptic, meaning viewed together, and then again in John. A lot of things don't appear in all four, but this is one that does, and the account is very similar in all of them. I want you to think about this scene. She's there at Jesus' feet. She's got her hair down. Her tears are flowing. She's washing. She's kissing them right there in front of God and everybody. I got to tell you, feet at this time are not clean things. Now, we all want to picture that he had a pair of sandals, but we don't know that. He could have been trotting around barefoot. So you've got dirt, you've got dust, and then you have the benefit of critters that are used in everyday commerce polluting the streets. And they've just walked through this. And this woman is at her feet, at his feet, with her hair, washing and scrubbing his feet to make them clean. Now it says he came in and sat down to eat dinner. That's not exactly how they ate. In those days, if you came in to eat, you kind of laid stretched out, you kind of popped up on one elbow, so you're extended, and your feet were always away from the table. So it was very easy for her to work her way back in and be at Christ's feet and not disrupt the general conversations at the table. But certainly Christ knew what was going on because she was touching his feet. And it's at that point that the Pharisees begin to say, she's not the right kind of woman. She's that woman. Everybody knows that woman, don't you? Do you know who that woman is? Because I want you to think about that. I said it wasn't him this morning, but this is a sermon I can only do when Sharon's out of town. Because there will probably be a pretty heavy critique of my that woman immediately following the service. But she was a sinner. Perhaps she was a thief. Perhaps she was a con artist. She wasn't the type who went to church. We do know that. And, she could have been a prostitute. So the translation this morning said prostitute. Mine said a woman who was immoral. But if you go back to the real translation, it doesn't say that. It says she was a woman of sin. Well, that's all it is, right? Of all of sin. Like I said, she could have been the con artist. She could have been a widow with no means of support that had to live on that seedier side of town who was then guilty by association. She's that woman. She's that woman. Or maybe because she lived on the edge of a red light district, she could have been divorced. See, divorce in those days was primarily to the Jewish man. And he could divorce you, ladies, for burning his toast for breakfast. Some guys are a little more. But the law was skewed at that time Pretty much so a guy can abandon his family and not break the religious law. No matter how wrong that was. We'll talk about what some of the weird things the Pharisees have come up with in many of our other lessons. So, she might well have been that thief or a streetwalker, we don't know. But the point is, it don't really matter. She was a sinner. She was just like you and I. So whether she was that kind of woman is just not that important to the story. Everyone called her a sinner, and that's the thing that's important. Gentlemen, take that woman out of it, and maybe it's that man. Are you that man? Or, hey, there's that man. So, gentlemen, this applies to us too. Just don't think because we're using women in this that we're guilt-free, because we're certainly not. So, she makes a spectacle of herself because of the forgiveness. She expressed her gratitude and didn't care who saw it. Have you ever been that happy in the Lord that you didn't care who saw the tears or your joy and what's going on? But the religious folk, the Pharisees, don't understand this. What they see is this woman, the sinner, the woman of ill repute, scandalized that Jesus is allowing her to touch him. And they are just mortified that this man who claims to be a prophet is allowing that woman to touch his feet, and much less cry on and wash him with her hair. So he says, let me tell you a story about this Simon, that great Pharisee that invited him to dinner. I'm going to give you a little twist on it. There was a banker who loaned this guy $50,000. In this day, each dollar they talk about in the example is 1 denarius. 1 denarius is a Roman coin, got the emperor on it, it's silver. It's worth about a day's wage of a common laborer. So if you're the guy that goes out and cuts the weed or works around town shoveling mud, that's about what you would make. One of these guys owes him about 50,000 denarius. It's a lot of money. The other one owes him about 500. Still a pretty good sized chunk of change in the scheme of things. And he forgives him. When he can't pay the loan, he says it's forgiven. And Jesus looks at Simon and says, so, Simon, who loves this guy more? The guy that got the 50 grand forgiven, or the guy that got the 500 forgiven? Choice A or choice B? Simon leads it on. He says the one who owed the most. Jesus said, you're right. You're right. So right now, look at this woman. What is this one? Right now, look at this woman. Not that woman. This woman. Who is so truly grateful, she has not stopped anointing my feet with oil and kissing them since she got to me. But you didn't even greet me at your door as a friend when I arrived. You didn't provide me water to wash my feet. You didn't provide me some customary oil to anoint my head. You didn't provide me anything that a friend would greet a friend with who's been invited to your home. Now, let me tell you something, Simon. I tell you, her sins, as many as they are, being this woman who is a sinner, are forgiven. Therefore, she loves greatly. But the one whom little is forgiven loves just a little. See, there was a snubbiness. You all understand that? They invite him to dinner, right? They're starting to figure out who he is, even though there's a plot behind the scenes that we want to assassinate him. You know, we want to kill him. We don't like him. Pharisees didn't like him very much. So they invite him to dinner. But when they don't wash his feet, provide him with the oil to anoint his head, and then have a place of honor and a welcoming spirit for him, they have snubbed him. So it's kind of like the invite in and then the smackdown before the real evening begins. Christ doesn't miss that. See, they kind of figured that went over his head. Simon is a little bit conniving in all this. But this starts to reveal a staggering truth that applies to us. The level of a person's devotion to God corresponds to the level of forgiveness they have received. See, the woman who follows Jesus in the story, it doesn't matter how many sins she had. To her, they were the worst in the world. To a lot of people, that woman was the worst in the world. It's not how much you have sinned that determines your forgiveness. It's all from the grace of God. There's a story about a young man who wants to develop a testimony
And he just can't seem to think that he's sinned enough to have great testimony. So he starts reading all these books of great Christian testimonies and great witness. And after several months of reading everything that's out there on the top reading list, he is met by one of the folks in the church, and the gentleman says, "So what have you learned about great testimony, young man?" And he goes, "Oh, I got it figured out. First thing is I'm going to start drinking a lot. Might even develop some alcoholism. Then I'm moving to drugs. I'm going to be a dope fiend. And then I got to start cheating on my wife. And once I get all that worked out and can balance all that, I may even turn to crime. But boy, when I give a testimony, it's going to be the best one you've ever heard." It's not how much you've sinned or what kind of sin you have committed that matters. Grace is a gift of God to us for our sins. There is one that is not worse than the other. If you are a cheater on your wife, it is not worse than the murderer. If you are a murderer, you are no worse than a person that doesn't obey God's law in many other areas of our life. It's not that you're a drinker. It's none of that. Everybody is worthy of this grace. I've had people say, in our communion teams, I've had somebody say to me, "I don't know that I'm the right person to be doing this because I'm not sure that that the grace that is there for me isn't as much as it's been for other people. And how do I know that I'm worthy of this?" I say to you today, it does not matter. Everybody is worthy of the grace. If you know the grace, what is your point of thankfulness for the grace? How much are you willing to be thankful for it? It's okay if they call you a fanatic. Did you know that? You can even be Jesus freak. That term is kind of blamed in recent years. But that's what they used to call us in the 70s, right, Steve? You're a Jesus freak. Now all you want to do is talk about God and share the joy. But if you don't know the joy, if you don't understand this thankfulness, I got to say to you, why not? Because it's waiting right there for you if you want to. Most of us walk in fear. We're talking in the open door some about false evidence appearing to you. See, we don't think we know it, right? I don't want to be that one. I don't want to be that one either. What's that one either? I don't want to be Jesus freak. Well, I don't want to be that one. I don't want to be the woman with ill repute. I don't want to be the con artist. Gentlemen, are you that man? Do you stand up for what you believe? It amazes me that church roles are about 50-50 of men and women. But it seems to me through observation that women do about 75 to 80% of the work in the church. How come? How come? Now, if my wife was here, she'd flat out tell me about that. Most of you have thoughts in your mind as to why. But and the global board says that about 90% of our churches have some form of a Methodist women's organization, whether it's United Methodist Women or they call themselves by something else. But about 90% of our members are engaged in some sort of ministry. But only about 10% of the men. Man, these Pharisees are quick to judge that woman. They were working up the strength to charge Jesus Christ for those who were crucified. But at that moment, they wanted to stay focused on that woman and all the sin. Not being worthy. Everybody's worthy. Everybody's worthy. And that's the point that Jesus begins to make as we go through this. Now, Luke does something kind of interesting in this series of the gospel. He starts dropping some names of some women. There's Mary Magdalene. There's Herod's treasurer's wife. I'm sorry, the name just escaped me that long back. I couldn't let me do that. And some others who are there supporting Jesus in his ministry of their own means. So there's still a small entourage going around with Jesus. Have you ever noticed how that crowd drops as you read the story of the Lord? Right? He's got the masses following him, and the more he keeps giving the commandments and talks about discipleship, it kind of dwindles down to finally 12. But yet these women of great faith, Mary Magdalene, 7 demons, he cast 7 demons out of Mary. The others, who knows what their sin was? But to them, it was great sin. I just got to tell you, folks, the mistakes and why people fear the grace of forgiveness. You have a problem forgiving people in your life? Have you ever been forgiven by somebody that you've done great wrong to? Remember what that was like and how they feel? See, harboring grudges doesn't get you anywhere. It weighs more on you than it does on the person holding grudges. Jesus gives us that example. The ultimate thing in all of these things is that the most perfect man that ever walked the face of the earth, the most perfect, died on a cross for you and I to give us this forgiveness that I'm describing to you this morning. It continually stays there. I watched English stroke the head of this little Mike Wood. As much as we love our children, I don't know that I can let one of them die, much less know it's going to happen, and watch it happen, and not do everything in my power to stop it. But that's how much God's love is in His Christ. He let the Son be crucified for you. He let the most perfect man that has ever walked the earth die for you and me. Grace is an abundant thing. Sometimes we don't capitalize on it enough as we live our lives. If you know this grace, then I would ask you to start looking for Jesus every day in your life. Where does Jesus come into your life? Where do you see Him? What impact did you and your ministry have? So in this, as I start to wrap up here, I want you to think about something. In that story, in that parable, who are you? Are you Simon? Are you that woman? Maybe you think you're Jesus. Are you the other people at the table watching and wondering why that person was working? Who are you in that story? And today, if you're aware of the grace, how do you change your role in the story? When you leave here today, how do you change your role to become better at who you are as a Christian? It's been roughly, since I wasn't there, 1,981 years since this woman washed Jesus' feet. 1,981 years. And we're still talking about her faithfulness and her thanks of being forgiven. What are they going to be saying about you in 1,981 years? What is the mark that you leave in your service to Christ? If you don't know this grace I'm talking about, come see me when this is over and we'll certainly talk about it. There is a rail up here. We're more than willing to pray with you for your concerns, or if you want to pray by yourself, come on down. There is no judgment in this place. This is a church of love. So you need to come pray, you come pray. We're going to get back down here, we'll pray with you on our knees, or we'll stand behind you, we'll do whatever it takes. Just know today the grace is here for you.